welcome back to RC Icons. So in this video, a recap of my Australia trip. So I wanted to sit down and make a video to try to kind of tell you guys, explain to you what the trip was all about, what I experienced, the people that I met. I was there on the ground like 19 days, and it was absolutely epic the entire time. So I met tons of people. I was able to visit all kinds of tracks. You guys have been seeing videos, running videos of me at different tracks, snapshots, so to speak, of the bash itself. So I guess first off, I'm going to fix my chair. First off, my videos and my documentation of the vintage bash is not necessarily race footage. I think that's more Jason's department over at True Vintage. He's really good at GoPros and drones and, you know, just filming regular and compiling all of that into the actual footage of the races themselves and the cars. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to film like A mains and B mains and try to bring that to you. It's not my place. It's not what I'm good at. But at the same time, I want you guys to try to be able to understand and experience what I experienced over there. So make sure you click over to Jason's channel in the coming weeks as he's releasing videos, kind of documenting Bash 3.0. It was epic. And those videos are going to be killer, but it's going to take him time to kind of compile all that stuff and get it out to you in a way that he always does, which is just absolutely epic. So the trip started out, obviously I left the States, flew 20 hours over to Australia and met Jason in person for the first time. Now Jason and I have been friends through social media for the past 2 years. Brothers, so to speak. And, you know, meeting someone, talking to someone through emails and text messages is one thing, but actually meeting somebody, you know, face to face for the first time and then staying with them for weeks is completely different. So Jason is exactly what I thought he was. Probably one of the most generous and humble individuals I know, and I'm blessed to know him. I do consider him a brother. Jason picked me up at the airport, drove 2 hours from his house in the Central Coast to Sydney, picked me up, and immediately we started in with, you know, laughs and just kind of hanging out. Now, the first 3 days that I was in Australia, it was all about getting my cars ready. So I shipped all of my stuff out 4 or 5 weeks before the bash. So essentially the last week in August, first week in September, maybe second week in September, I was in the middle of starting the garage project and the driveway project, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to like work on my stuff. So literally the double X4, the Kyosho ZX, Laser ZX, whatever cars I was bringing, my whole Shoemaker haul that I had bought in earlier this year, all the Fireblades and the Storm 2000, all of that, all went in a box, 5 humongous boxes, shipped it all to Australia so that when I was traveling, all I had to do was hook a backpack and go. And that's how I did it. Got to Jason's. I presented him with the Shoemaker stuff. I want him to take those cars, rebuild them, keep them, sell them, do what he wants with them. That was kind of like a thank you for letting me stay with him. Obviously, the Storm was the truck that I wanted in that deal, and I got that truck. But I did not have a body for that truck. So I sent the truck over there with the intentions of running it in the stadium truck class, but needed to get a body done. And of course, me being me, I had to do box art, 4 different colors, in-depth paint job. So the first 3 days I was there, I was doing a Storm box art body, I was doing an Evo or a Top Force Evolution body set, along with getting a Tomy Intruder ready to go, a Laser ZX ready to go. My double X4, we took the 17.5 brushless Viper or Cobra that was in there, motor out, put a Trinity in. Jason, in anticipation of me coming, built me a Losi double X two-wheel drive car. We needed to swap the motor and ESC out of that car and get that one ready to go, so that essentially the cars that I was racing were ready, as well as my backup cars. So the Tomy Intruder needed a motor put in it, servo put in it, right? So there was a ton of work. It was 3-4 solid days. And we needed to shake the cars down. So the first video you saw of me at Castle Hill, that was our first running experience after essentially day and night working on cars for 3 or 4 days. We finally got out. Oh, before I even get to that, so while working on Jason's cars, I was able to meet his friend Sean. I was able to meet his friend Richard. Both are subscribers. Richard actually let me borrow all of his batteries, transponders, anything that I needed that I couldn't really ship out. I didn't have transponders. I've never raced before. Short of running on my track, I've never run on a track before, right? So here I am going to a vintage race. I don't have transponders. Richard let me borrow some transponders and some batteries to kind of sort me out for the bash. I didn't want to ship lipos. It's a huge pain in the ass. So I borrowed Richard's. We finally got the Jason's van packed up. We headed to Knox, which is in Melbourne, right? So there's a 1,025 kilometer drive, which took us 9.5 hours. We did that the Tuesday after I got there, and we basically had an Airbnb for the next 7 days. So, of course, we get to Melbourne and immediately go straight to the track. And when we get to the track, we met Andrew Crow, Scoop, I believe, or Scoop, I forget, one of the two. So Andrew is track manager, and he was there working on the track. We got there and immediately wanted to start running, like start getting some practice in. So we got there, and another subscriber from Canada, Dwayne Barr, who was also staying in our Airbnb, was there waiting for us. So that was my first introduction with Dwayne. Spent 10, 12 days with Dwayne. Again, Dwayne's another brother now. We experienced stuff together that we'll both remember for the rest of our lives. It was very, very cool. You actually saw Dwayne or at least you saw his cars in the Waganda video this past Wednesday. So Dwayne has a racing pedigree. He's been racing since a kid. Brought his 870C Riri, brought his 94 YZ10, brought his RC10 Worlds Riri. Also brought 91, I think, 3D Grand Prix RC10, and then he brought his RC10T stadium truck. Dwayne's one hell of a driver, one hell of a wrencher, and just an all-around great guy. We had a ton of fun. So we met Dwayne at the track, and then who pulls up but the three Kiwis? So Chris, Tim, and my boy Hayden Tasker were some of the other internationals that came in from New Zealand to run the bash, and they were also there for a week. So over the course of the week, I was able, or at least that Tuesday and Wednesday, because Wednesday we ran all day as well, it was just kind of us hanging out, running the track, maybe 10 of us at most. So really got a chance to kind of hang out with Tim and Chris. More so Hayden. Hayden has been a subscriber since the beginning, and Hayden, again, is like a brother at this point. He's probably going to watch this video and he's going to be laughing his ass off. And Hayden also was one of the 4 Storm 2000 stadium trucks that ran on Stadium Truck Day. We had 4 Storms that were running together, Lucas being the 4th. And Lucas and Hayden and I had gone back and forth in emails about the Storm 2000. They were trying to get trucks kind of put together and figured out. Hayden's Storm ran in Castle Hill's vintage event earlier this year, but Lucas literally was trying to piece one together with help of Jason, and potentially he was asking me about the Fireblade stuff. And long story short, it was great that Lucas was there as well. But that Tuesday, Wednesday, just kind of being us from out of town, having the track all to ourselves was just absolutely epic. Wednesday night after running, it was time to start getting stuff set up. That's when Lou came in, who was the event coordinator. Now, Lou has an unbelievable history with Australia and with racing. I'll get more into Lou kind of as I get going about the bash. But I got my first introduction to Neil, the club president, the Hungarian hitman. And Neil, my first impressions of Neil were probably not the best, although Neil was having a really off afternoon, and I didn't know what to think when I left that day, and everyone was like, just chill, like he'll give him 15 minutes. And lo and behold, that night at dinner, Neil shows up and apologized to me and the other guys for his, stress, so to speak. And again, just another brother. We had more laughs with Neil throughout the weekend that, moments in time that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Unbelievable guy, funniest guy you'll ever meet. And he literally has a name for everyone. Probably the best, track announcer, commentator, so to speak, I've ever heard. Has you in stitches the whole time you're watching the race. Bit of a bust up. Stuff like that coming out of Neil the entire time. Absolutely hilarious. So yeah, before the event even started, even if no racing had happened, I had so much fun the first 2 days that it wouldn't I couldn't have come down. There was only going up from there. So Thursday comes, cars and coffee, everybody's hanging out, practicing. Now the place is really starting to hustle and bustle. Oh, and I forgot, I'm sorry. So Scott was another one of our housemates. So Scott, Mr. Losi, absolutely awesome guy. Scott's one of Jason's friends from the Central Coast. He was also with us on Tuesday and Wednesday. This guy has more Losi stuff. I've never seen so much Losi and learned so much about Losi because of Scott. It's unbelievable. I have a collection and it's diverse. We call Scott Mr. Losi because Losi is the only car company that exists in Scott's mind. It's funny. If you know Scott, you know what I'm talking about. And, I think it was the second day I take the double X that Jason had given me and I split the thing in half on a star picket, or basically a fence post, right? If you know the double X, the front bulkhead is the weak point. And I sheared the whole front of the car off. And of course, Mr. Losi helped me put it back together, along with Andrew Cook. Another name you're going to hear again here in a second. So yeah, Wednesday night we went out with Neil. Thursday it starts, and that was it. The rest of the weekend it was balls to the wall. So people were coming in. Rob came in. Lucas came in. A lot of subscribers, that I kind of know their names but had never met before, shaking hands. It was just an absolutely epic time. And then Friday the racing started with Stadium Truck and Jurassic. We also did the concourse on Friday as well. So kind of a little bit of racing, just a touch of kind of getting into it, kind of learning the ins and outs of the track at that point. And people were still coming in because some people were just coming for the weekend, right? Saturday and Sunday. Friday night was a big social night. So we went to, I think it was called the Stockton or the Stamford. We had a booking for 100 people. There was at least 60 to 70 people there, all having dinner together, all talking RC. It was absolutely epic. So Friday night, I got to meet Ant, one of the originators of vintage RC in Australia. Ant, I spent the next 4 days with him. Absolutely awesome. Running a Dandy Dash out on the track, as well as a Nico, what was it? Bison F10. I think that's what it was. Unreal to see some of these cars run. And Ant, he can stick, and he's just been around it forever. And to hear the stories, just absolutely awesome. Got to have dinner that night with Andrew Cook, also known as Cookie. 3D Grand Prix. I've mentioned his company in the past. He does the 89 and 91 Masamli replica chassis kits, RC10 chassis kits, so like the Stealth kit. He also does a ton of parts for the Traxxas TRX1. He also does a ton of parts for Losi. So a lot of the hard to find weak car parts, Andrew Cook's been racing since he was literally a tiny little kid. He's been in Australia his entire life. He knows the weakness of a lot of these cars, and he's reproducing a lot of these parts. When I sheared the double X in half, Cookie immediately came over, handed me 2 3D printed front bulkheads that are way stronger than the original ones, just because the original ones are so old and the plastic is brittle. Asked him what I could give him for it. He said nothing. And he spent the rest of the weekend doing that for everybody. I mean, the guy literally gave away... It's insane how much he gave away in part support to everybody that was racing. So Cookie, from the bottom of my heart, it was a pleasure to meet you and thank you. And I will be putting an order in. I told him before I left, you got to work up a price. I want everything for the TRX1. I want everything for the 89 and the 91. And he's also working currently on the 91 Losi prototype, which everybody down there is real excited about, especially Scott. Scott's all over the 91 prototype that he's working on now. So yeah, Friday night I got to have dinner with Cook and James Knight from Knight's Customs. If you don't know James or Knight Customs, he does a ton of 3D printing as well. He's the one that does the what's it called? The it's for the Wild One, or it's for the Wild One, but it's the sandrail kit for the Wild One. But he does a ton of other stuff as well. So yeah, Knight Customs. Now, I knew I was going to be meeting these people, but you have these impressions in your head of who these people are and what they do, and you don't know them, so you know your impression might be different from these guys. Are all my age. They're all the same mindset. They're just cool dudes. So to be able to meet these people and have dinner with them and just chill with them, absolutely awesome. Some of the nicest people I've ever met anywhere in my life. So yeah, literally that night I was away from all of my housemates, and I had never met Cookie or James, and the three of us shared a table and just hung out and talked RC, and it was cool as hell, because as much as I know, I always say I don't know everything. Everything we talked about was new. So for me, it was exciting. It was like I literally was like diving in. You know, it was just a very cool experience, and I'll cherish those memories forever. Saturday comes, you know, day where June kind of shows up for the first time. He was there on Friday as well for Stadium Truck. I actually raced with him. June Watanabe, another one. Again, just a super nice, like, I'm thinking clothing designer, you know, no big deal. Who's this guy, right? He's designed a couple of cars for Tamiya and whatever. There's no way he's going to know how to drive. He's a clothing designer. Wrong. June is the nicest, most down-to-earth person you'll ever meet. Like, just there to have fun and stick a car. And that's what the rest of us were there for. And he's a great driver. I remember finishing my Stadium Truck final, and I was out there marshalling, and I'm watching him run a Stadium Blitzer. Now, I was running a Storm 2000, right? I'm watching him run a Stadium Blitzer, and he's got this thing zipping around the track like no one's business, just absolutely killing it. Speaks great English. You could sit down and have a conversation with him. Again, just really down to earth. I had him sign my Hornet and my Hornet new in-box kit. Hung out all weekend, just like any other person. And again, memories that I'll remember forever. Yeah, June Watanabe, Blockhead Motors, absolutely cool. So you start to think of like the people and the companies that were behind, that were here and represented. Paul from Berserk. Berserk does all kinds of carbon work for all kinds of cars. He also does a ton of 3D printing. In fact, Dwayne needed to figure out batteries for his 870C, either that or his 94, I can't remember, and called Paul on basically from the airport, and Paul designed and printed him the battery brackets that he needed for the car. Dwayne got to Melbourne, went straight to Paul's shop, picked up the parts, and the first night we were in the house, Dwayne's got the car completely ripped apart, parts fit perfect. I'm like, it's absolutely insane that these people, like, I can't do any of that kind of stuff. Like, I'm an idiot when it comes to that stuff. So, like, to meet these people that are just, levels above me when it comes to design, printing, turn it into a business, and to be able to support the rest of us in an RC marketplace is just absolutely awesome. So, yeah, Paul, thank you for what you do as well as meeting your son. Carter I watched that kid wheel a car, and I was just absolutely amazed. That guy, he can drive. Carter, I know you're humble, you're quiet, you like to drive, just kind of get off the stadium podium and go marshal, do your thing. You might say thank you to one or two people as they say, nice job, Carter. I've never met someone more humble than Carter. Absolutely unbelievable, nice person. So yeah, it was like just one after another, right? And then the subscribers to boot, Lucas and Robbie Rob and Dino. Dino was raffling off a Hornet for Children's Hospital. Like, just super, super nice guys. All subscribers. Some of them have YouTube channels as well that I subscribe to. So it was just, the interaction was great. Saturday they opened up the Gourmet Cafe, which is a cafe that's gourmet according to the Hungarian Hitman. We also had Big Show, which I met Thursday night with Neil. Big Show was calling the race and running Race Central along with Wookie. Everybody has nicknames down there. So I have to do these shout outs because I know Neil and Lou and all these guys are going to be watching these videos. So half of you are like, what is Keith talking about? But yeah, we had the Wookie, we had Big Show, we had the Hungarian Hitman, and then we had the man himself, Lou, the event coordinator. So Lou raced as a kid, and Lou was on a championship team, but a group of drivers that drove for Australia in the national championships, in the IFMARs, went to Japan to race. Back in like 91, he was working with the team, and the team was working with Yokomo, and Yokomo didn't have enough YZ10s at the time to support the entire team. So Lou's telling me this story. I think it was on Saturday. Maybe it was Friday. So the team manager, or one of the sponsors, went to Lou and was like, look, we don't have enough Yokomos, but we've got another company that we're working with that we have a couple of kits for. It's called Tomy, and they've got a new car out called the Intruder. Are you interested in one of those? So Lou was like, yeah, just, why don't you give me one and I'll build it up. So the guy had given Lou, it was a Saturday, gave him a Tomy Intruder new in-box kit to build up. So Lou basically had dinner with the team, went back to his hotel room, 7 o'clock at night, started building the Intruder, finished it about 3 a.m., had it all painted up like blue and purple. It was all stickered up with yellow Twister stickers and all the sponsor stickers. Wakes up Sunday morning to go race it. He's all excited, walks down to the lobby, 7 a.m., and the team manager's looking at the car and asked Lou for the car, and Lou was kind of confused, and the team manager was like, I need to put it in somebody else's hands. So Lou had to give up the Tomy Intruder after spending all night building it up and hand it over to another driver to wheel. If you guys remember my video of my runner Tomy, now I never did a running video here with it, but you will see it in different videos either over the past couple of weeks or in the coming weeks of the Wednesday roundups. my car is the spitting image of Lou's car back in '91. So my intention with that car was to actually gift it to Sean, Jason's friend. It was like the first night I was at Jason's, Sean was telling me how it was like his number one car, and I was, in my mind, I was leaving it in Australia with Sean. Then I'm hearing the story from Lou, and it absolutely had to go to Lou at that point. And Sean will get taken care of with another intruder. I have enough parts to build another one. I just need to sit down and build it. So I'm not going to renege what I said to Sean. I'm actually going to gift him an intruder as well. But this one had to go to Lou. So Lou's telling me the story, and I'm like, it's just unbelievable to hear these stories from back in the day, right? Of people that were there to experience this stuff, right? So like we talk about an '89 Marv at St. Ives, and we might watch videos on YouTube of it, but we weren't there to experience it, right? So talking to these people firsthand that experienced it's just absolutely epic. And then the following championships afterwards, right? And then just the history. So these people have been involved in this. Like they're at the bash celebrating vintage RC, but they've lived it their entire life. So it's just it's like nothing else. So we get done running on Saturday and on Sunday, and Lou saw that I had the Tomy out. I think I kept breaking my laser. The ball cups, the original ball cups on the laser were getting brittle, and I think I replaced like 9 of them over the course of the 2 weeks leading up to the 4-wheel drive race on Sunday. And finally I'm like, you know what, I'm just kind of done with the laser. I've worked on it more than I've driven it. I'm going to run the Tomy. So Lou sees the Tomy out on my bench, and I'm working on it. I went out to do another run with the XX4. I come back, the Tomy's gone. I'm like, what happened to the car? They're like, Lou has it. So Lou takes the car and immediately starts tuning the car. So I look over and I see his face as he's working on this car, right? Here's a man that's in love with what's in front of him. I mean, that's the bottom line. And it would probably took him straight back to like 1991 when he was building the car and setting it up for his race that he never got to run with. So Lou got the car ready. I went and ran the last run, and he was watching it, and there's pictures of it all over Facebook. It's the only Tomy that's there. Big Tomy wing, white Tomy across the blue wing. And I finished the race. I walked over and handed it to him and told him that it was his car, not mine. And I think it meant, I know it meant a lot. It meant a lot for Lou to get that car. So yeah, just unbelievable times throughout the bash. We went out to dinner every single night. Sunday, the races all finished up, and everybody kind of said their goodbyes. I said the goodbyes to everybody, and then you'll probably see some pictures on Facebook of everyone wearing RC Icon shirts. Well, I made it a point to bring 100 shirts down, and I gave 100 shirts away. So at the end of Sunday, called everybody out. If you want to take a picture with me, come grab a shirt. So everybody grabbed shirts. They all went out with me. June grabbed a shirt. Everybody was grabbing shirts. We were able to get a nice big picture of everyone wearing RC Icons gear, and that kind of wrapped up the day. Lou comes over as we're breaking tents down and kind of putting stuff away. He's like, hey, why don't you guys come over for pizza tonight? So it was like, all right. So we went back to our accommodation, took showers, got ready. That's it. 5 or 6 of us back at Lou's. Jason, myself, Dwayne, Scott had already left. But Aunt met us over there, and Lou and his wife opened their house up. We had pizzas. The boys were drinking some beers. Lou was working on his Tomy right away. But Lou that night gifted me a Yokomo MX4. He knew I was looking for one, and he had one in parts in his garage. And Lou's cars are next level in his garage. His real one-to-one cars as well as his RC cars. But Lou, again, I'm telling you, vintage racer, lived through it, and is still celebrating it today. And every one of his cars is a runner. But some unbelievably bull and epic cars. He's got a Dandy Dash / Nico Brat hybrid that he's been working on. He thought he had stripped a gear. I was trying to video him do his first run. He thought he had stripped a gear, and it turned out that it ended up being a loose pinion or something. He was worried he did damage to the car, but he didn't. So yeah, just an unbelievable experience. And it was like no sooner did the bash end, conversation started for 4.0. There's no delay. This thing started 3 years ago with Bash 1.0, and it doesn't end. It just starts again. So 3 ends, and planning for 4 immediately starts. And I think 4.0 is going to... I don't know how it could top 3.0, but it will. Like, we had 350 some odd entries. Biggest RC event ever in Australia history was the Vintage Bash 3.0. 150 people at least in a field, all talking, eating, sleeping, drinking vintage RC. Not just race cars. There was a guy running an original Wild Willie on Jurassic Day. Unbelievable to see that thing ripping around a track. An original Wild Willie with the Blazing Blazer tires. Where do you see that? On an AM radio. You know, it's just unbelievable. It was so fun. So yeah, we finished up Sunday at Lou's house, and unfortunately we had to say, oh no, we didn't say goodbye to Lou. So Monday was a national holiday, so we were still in town till Tuesday. So we went back to the track. Lou showed up, and it's probably going to be on Jason's video, but Jason was like interviewing Lou because they were also a Losi team. It was like Losi / Yokomo, but Lou ran Losi cars growing up, and he was talking about all the differences between like the Double X and the Double X CR, and like the evolution of the Hydra Drive, and that'll probably be on Jason's video. But to be a fly on the wall for that conversation was just unbelievable. Like, just the history that's inside that guy's head. Someone needs to sit down and like seriously interview him about all of these cars. And then, same with Neil, the Hungarian hitman. As Scott is Mr. Losi, Neil is Traxxas TRX1. You know, they finished 3rd and 4th in 91 Detroit. Like, I don't know if that's right or not, but that's Neil. No other car exists other than the Traxxas TRX1. In fact, when Neil and I first met, he says, I hear you have a hell of a collection. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty extensive. He's like, do you have a Traxxas TRX1? And I'm like, nope, I don't. And he's like, then you don't have all the good cars yet, you know? And that's Neil. He's all about the TRX1. He's probably got like 9 of them at least. He knew I wanted to build one, and Cookie does a ton of the parts for the TRX1. Paul at Berserk does the chassis and upper deck for the TRX1. The hardest part to find if you want to put one together, even if it's just a runner, is the gearbox. So before I left, Neil A gave me my 40th anniversary Knox shirt. I'm wearing your shirt, Neil. Throws me a rear end gearbox for a Traxxas TRX1. So like those are the parts. It's basically, I'm not going to call it a stealth gearbox. Looks a lot like the RC10 stealth gearbox. May even be the same geometry, but it's probably not. And Neil's probably going to blow me up for saying that. But that's fine. But Neil graciously threw me a gearbox as a start to build the Traxxas TRX1. And I will have you know, Neil, in an upcoming video, you're going to see that I ended up buying one before I left. Richard, who lent me the batteries and the transponders, sold me his Traxxas TRX1 2 days before I left Australia, along with a huge cache of spare parts. So I'm probably going to end up building 2. I'll build one Shelf Queen with a lot of the parts that Richard gave me, because original parts are very brittle now for the TRX1. You got to run Cookie's parts if you're going to run it. Otherwise, you're just going to break it. But Richard turned us on to some steel inners for the transmission, which is game breaking for running them. And in the parts lot that I got, I got 4 of those steel inners, and Jason took a set to send to Neil and Lou, I think, and then Jason got a set, and I got the 4th set. So yeah, you'll see. I don't mention Traxxas a lot, and when I talk about Traxxas right now, I'm talking about old Traxxas, not new Traxxas. You're gonna see a Traxxas TRX1 come on the channel, and that is in no way to promote the company that exists today. It's to celebrate the history of that car from when it was. And then, like I said, Lou gifted me an MX4, which I have everything I need except for the diff out drives. So if you have a set of MX4 diff out drives that you don't need, I would love to buy them from you. If not, I believe Dwayne Barr is going to send me a couple, because he's got a few of them, and I'll have my brother machine them, and then I will probably have them available for people who need MX4 out drives. I know of a few companies that are reproducing MX4s, and I believe that's kind of the one piece of the puzzle they are not producing themselves. So yeah, just an absolutely epic time. To sit here now and try to relive it and get it all out of my head. I didn't make any notes. I probably missed a ton of people. I apologize if I did miss you. It wasn't that you weren't rememberable. It's just so much to remember. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, I mean, that was basically it. On the way out of Melbourne and back up towards Sydney, we decided to kind of track tour the rest of the time we were there. So we split the 1,000-kilometer ride back into 2 days. We stopped at Wodonga halfway back and ran Wodonga in the afternoon. You guys just saw that running clip, that running video. Dwayne, Jason, and myself. We got an accommodation for the night, and then the next day we finished the last 500 Ks back up to Sydney, and then the next day we hit St. Ives, where they had the 89 IFMAR. It's been changed since the 89 IFMAR. When it was a dirt track, it's now an outdoor carpet track. You'll see footage from that this coming Wednesday. And then after St. Ives, I believe we did one more day at Castle. So Jason, myself, Dwayne, and Jason Bochniak met us over there, and we did one more day at Castle Hill, so it was kind of nice. I started with Castle, and I ended with Castle. The 2025 IFMAR is happening at Castle Hill next year. So next year, Castle Hill is hosting the IFMAR. But this year they hosted the Australian Championship, so that they changed the track from what I built to a newer style, which is what you guys are seeing. The hits are huge and a little bit too much for vintage cars, but it was still fun, and it's an absolutely epic facility to be able to experience and go to. We finished at Castle Hill on last Friday, and then Saturday it was a matter of boxing all my stuff up again and shipping it out, and Jason drove me to the airport on Sunday. So literally from the time I got off the plane to the time I got on the plane, non-stop RC, absolutely epic experiences the entire time, meeting people, hanging with people, laughing. It just an awesome trip. So for you guys kind of experiencing it through my videos, through the pictures, through Facebook, if you were ever going to take a trip that involved vintage RC, if you were ever going to go to Australia for like a once in a lifetime deal, this is absolutely the event to go to. The people that you meet, the stories that you'll hear, the cars that you'll see, the food that you'll eat, like nothing else you'll ever experience anywhere. This does not exist in the United States. I can't say that it exists in the UK. Now, I know the Revival is in the UK, and I'm not taking anything away from the Revival. But being era-based the way that it is in Australia is absolutely, in my mind, the way to do it. they presented me with a little trinket, a little vintage Bash 3.0, the Jurassic Worlds plaque. I know Dwayne got one as well. All of the out-of-towners got one. This will go in the new studio, and every time I see it, I'll think of my trip. So thank you, Lou and company. Wookie. Big Show. Hungarian Hitman. The Crow family. Sue's Shack. You guys know what I'm talking about. My boys in New Zealand, Hayden, Tim, and Chris. And all the subscribers in Australia. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to all you. And most importantly, Dwayne, Scott, and Jason, my housemates. Jason and Jason. But primarily Jason Bochniak, Dwayne Barr, and Scott, my housemates in Melbourne. Thank you for an epic week. And Jason Millward at True Vintage TVRC, your hospitality the entire time was absolutely next level. For you to take 2.5 weeks off of work and for your son to give up his bedroom in your house and offer it to me is just, it's mind-boggling. And I can't thank you enough. So that's going to do it for this video. That was my trip. It was absolutely epic. Keep an eye out for the videos that haven't come out yet. Keep an eye out for Jason's videos to be able to like see these cars in action. If you haven't seen the running footage already, or the concourse video that I had put out, I had put out a video of the pits and concourse last Saturday. Go back and watch that stuff. Subscribe if you want to. Like, click. I apologize, I have not been in the comments for the past month. Just way too busy down there to be on my phone answering comments. That's not a dig towards you guys. I read the comments. I just didn't have time to answer the comments. But yeah, throw a comment in. I should be getting back into the swing of things. I got to get back into my email. I apologize if you've emailed me and I haven't responded. Literally, it's been non-stop for 7 or 8 weeks now, between everything leading up to the trip at home, experiencing the trip, and then getting back into the swing of things over the past 5 days now that we're back home. So thank you for all your support. We'll see you soon. Thanks.